September 3rd, 2013. Espoo, Finland. Stephen Elop, the chief executive of Nokia, stands in front of the cameras and announces that the company is selling its entire phone business to Microsoft for 5.4 billion euros, less than Nokia used to earn in profit in a single good year. And out of that day, one moment became immortal. A story spread across the internet. The story of a CEO breaking down in front of the press, saying the words that would be quoted in 1 million business seminars. We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost. You've seen that quote. You've probably shared it. But here's something almost nobody knows. Try to find the video of him saying it. Go ahead, pause this and look. You won't find it. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why that missing footage might be the most honest thing in this entire story. Because in 2007, Nokia sold 1 out of every 3 phones on planet Earth. 40% of the global market. The most valuable company in Europe. A brand so dominant that customers walked into stores and didn't ask for a phone. They asked for a Nokia. 6 years later, it was gone. Not beaten, not outsold, erased. And the man standing on that stage in 2013, the man who pressed the final button, walked away from the wreckage with 18.8 million euros in his pocket and a job waiting for him at Microsoft, the company that bought the corpse. The Finnish Prime Minister called his payout outrageous. An entire country called him something worse, a traitor, a saboteur, a Trojan horse. So tonight, we're going to do what an internet full of motivational quotes never did. We're going to treat the death of Nokia as what it actually was, a crime scene. To understand how big the fall was, you have to understand how impossible the rise was. Because Nokia should never have existed as a phone company at all. It started in 1865. Not with technology, with trees. A Finnish mining engineer named Fredrik Idestam opened a paper mill by the Nokian Virta River and named his company after the water. For the next 100 years, Nokia made paper, then rubber boots, then car tires, then cables, then televisions, then military radios. This was a company with one superpower. It could become something else. Every 50 years, Nokia looked at the world, decided the old business was dying, and reinvented itself completely. Hold on to that. Because the company that reinvented itself every 50 years is about to forget how, at the exact moment it matters most. In 1987, a Nokia phone became world famous when Mikhail Gorbachev, the leader of the Soviet Union, was photographed making a call on one from Helsinki to Moscow. The press nicknamed the phone the Gorba. In 1992, Nokia made a decision that looks insane on paper. It threw away everything, the paper, the rubber, the TVs, the cables, and bet the entire company on one product. Mobile phones. That same year, it launched the Nokia 1011, one of the first phones built for the new GSM digital standard. The standard Nokia itself had helped create, and then the numbers stopped making sense. The Nokia 2110, the phone that introduced that ringtone, was forecast to sell 400,000 units. It sold 20 million, 50 times the plan. By 1998, Nokia passed Motorola to become the largest phone maker on Earth. The 3310 became a legend you could drop down a stairwell. The Nokia 1100 sold over 250 million units, the best-selling consumer electronic device in history. Not the best-selling phone, the best-selling anything. At the peak of the dot-com era, Nokia was worth around $290 billion, the most valuable company in Europe. And here's the part people forget. The iPhone launched in January 2007, and Nokia's market share went UP. By the end of 2007, with the iPhone already on shelves, Nokia hit its all-time peak. 40.4% of every phone sold on Earth. The king watched the assassin walk into the room and got stronger. So if the iPhone didn't kill Nokia in 2007, then what did? To answer that, we have to go somewhere strange, not to Cupertino, not to a courtroom, to a locked lab in Finland, years before the iPhone existed, where Nokia's own engineers built the future. And management buried it. In the late 1990s, behind closed doors, Nokia's design team finished something that should not have existed yet. A tablet computer, wireless internet, a touchscreen, a decade before the iPad. Around the year 2000, Nokia's chief designer, Frank Nuovo, stood in front of the company and demonstrated a phone with a full-color touchscreen and a single button. In the demo, the device found a restaurant, played a racing game, ordered products online. 7 years before Steve Jobs walked on stage. Years later, Nuovo would tell journalists about that day with something close to grief. In his words, "We had it completely nailed." And it wasn't a one-off. In 2004, a team of Nokia engineers built a working prototype of an internet-ready phone with a large color touchscreen. The same year, another team proposed something to go with it, an online store for applications, an app store. 3 years before Apple announced one. 2 projects, the phone and the store, the entire next decade of human technology, sitting in one Finnish office in 2004. Leadership reviewed both projects and killed both. A former Nokia manager who demonstrated the touchscreen device later explained the decision to the New York Times in 3 words. They killed it. Too expensive, too risky, too unproven. But here's the thing that doesn't add up. Nokia wasn't cheap. Nokia wasn't lazy. Nokia was spending billions on research, outspending almost everyone in the industry. They funded the prototypes. They built the future with their own hands, with their own money. And then they refused to sell it. Why would a company pay to invent something and then pay to bury it? The answer is the most dangerous force in business: margins. Nokia's existing phones printed money. 40% market share, factories running day and night. Every spreadsheet said the same thing: don't touch anything. A touchscreen phone was a risk. The 3310 was a certainty. And when a company gets big enough, certainty always wins the meeting. They did try, half-heartedly. A touchscreen device called the 7700 was announced in 2003 and quietly cancelled before it ever shipped. Its successor, the 7710, limped into stores in 2004 and died there. And every failed half-attempt taught management the same wrong lesson. See, people don't want touchscreens. Then came January 9th, 2007. San Francisco, Steve Jobs. An iPod, a phone, an internet communicator. The iPhone. Now, the story you've heard is that Nokia laughed, that they were blind, that they didn't see it coming. That story is wrong, and the truth is so much worse. Nokia saw it perfectly. Internal teams pulled the iPhone apart and ran it through Nokia's own evaluation standards, and by those standards it failed. No 3G weak battery, a glass face that would crack on a drop test that any Nokia would survive, a price tag of $500 in a world of $50 handsets. Every single criticism was technically correct. And that's the second thing that doesn't add up. Nokia's engineers were right. The first iPhone really was, as hardware, an inferior phone. And it didn't matter. At all. Because Apple wasn't selling a phone. Apple was selling a software platform that happened to make calls. The battle had silently moved from hardware, Nokia's fortress, to ecosystems. Apps, developers, experience. Nokia won the war it was measuring. It just wasn't the war being fought anymore. And inside Nokia headquarters, the reaction to this new threat was not a plan. It was not a counterattack. It was something I still find hard to believe, confirmed by researchers who interviewed dozens of Nokia executives after the collapse. The iPhone was banned. Not from the market, from the building. After Nokia collapsed, researchers from the business school INSEAD did something nobody had done. They got inside. They interviewed Nokia executives, managers, and engineers, and what they found wasn't a technology failure. It was fear, industrial-scale fear. According to that research, the iPhone created so much anxiety among Nokia's board and top managers that people were effectively forbidden from even using one. One account from inside the company describes the attitude on the executive floor in one sentence. Don't even mention that word in this building. The most important product in the history of their industry. And the world's biggest phone company responded by pretending it didn't exist. But the ban was only a symptom. The disease went deeper. Inside Nokia, top management kept believing the answer to the iPhone was nearly ready, because that's what they were being told. Middle managers, terrified of delivering bad news to famously hot-tempered executives, kept reporting that everything was on schedule. It wasn't. Bad news simply could not travel upward through the company. So the people steering the ship were navigating with a map drawn by their own subordinates' fear. And nowhere was that more fatal than the software. Nokia's operating system, Symbian, had been built years earlier, by committee, together with Ericsson, Motorola, and Siemens. By 2008, it was an ancient city of code. One former insider described it perfectly. You'd push one thing, and another thing would pop out somewhere else. Apple's developers wrote an app in days. Symbian developers needed months and prayed it wouldn't break 6 other things. Nokia finally shipped its iPhone killer, the 5800, in late 2008. Then the N97 in 2009, a flagship so unresponsive, so broken, that it's still studied as one of the worst flagship launches in history. The numbers started moving. Profits down, smartphone share bleeding, Apple growing triple digits, and a new free operating system called Android spreading to Samsung, HTC, LG, everyone. Nokia had one obvious exit. Swallow its pride, adopt Android. One senior Nokia executive gave the official answer, in public, in words that became infamous. Using Android, he said, was like a Finnish boy peeing in his pants to stay warm in winter. Comfortable for a moment, fatal soon after. So by September 2010, Nokia's board faced the truth. The software was dying. The culture was poisoned. The middle managers were lying out of fear. The top managers were ruling through it. And the company that reinvented itself every 50 years had finally, fatally, forgotten how. They decided Nokia could not be saved by a Finn. So they did something the company had never done in its 145-year history. They went outside. The man they chose was a Canadian software executive. His name was Stephen Elop, and his previous job? Running the business division of Microsoft. Now here is the third thing that doesn't add up. And at the time, almost nobody noticed it. Stephen Elop took the job leading Finland's national treasure, but he never really moved to Finland. He kept his family home near Microsoft's headquarters in Redmond, Washington. His family stayed in America. For his entire time running Nokia, the CEO of Finland's most important company kept 1 foot planted, 9 kilometers from Microsoft's front door. Remember that, because what he did next would either go down as the boldest rescue attempt in tech history or the greatest corporate infiltration ever pulled off. February 8, 2011. 5 months into the job, Stephen Elop writes an internal memo to every Nokia employee. It begins with a story. A man working on an oil rig in the North Sea wakes up to an explosion. The platform is on fire. He runs to the edge. Below him, black, freezing Atlantic water. Behind him, flames. Jump and probably die. Stay and certainly die. He jumps, and then Elop delivers the line. Nokia, too, is standing on a burning platform. The memo is brutal. It says the company fell behind, missed the big trends, lost time. It admits, in writing from the CEO, that years after the iPhone, Nokia still has nothing close to it. That Android conquered the market in 2 years while Nokia watched. That the problem isn't devices anymore, it's ecosystems. A war of hardware, software, developers, and apps. A war Nokia brought a keypad to. It was meant for employees only. Within days, it leaked to the entire world. And to this day, nobody has ever established who leaked it, or whether it was ever truly meant to stay private. Because read it again, knowing what happens next, and the memo stops sounding like a pep talk. It starts sounding like a press release. Nokia's own chairman, Jorma Ollila, the man who built the mobile empire, was reportedly furious, tearing into Elop at board level for the damage. Because here's what the memo actually did. The sitting CEO of the world's largest phone maker had just told every customer, every shop, every carrier on Earth, in writing, our products are a burning oil rig. 3 days later, February 11th, 2011, Elop made it official. Nokia would abandon Symbian, abandon MeeGo, its in-house next-generation system, and bet the entire company on a single partner's software. Not Android, not its own platform, Microsoft, Windows Phone, his former employer. Now, in business, there are 2 famous ways to destroy your own company with a single announcement. The first is the Ratner effect, named after a British jewelry tycoon who joked publicly that his own products were garbage and watched his empire implode. The second is the Osborne effect, announcing your future product so early that everyone stops buying your current one. On February 11th, 2011, Stephen Elop did both, on the same day. He declared every phone Nokia currently sold to be a burning platform, while the first Nokia Windows phone was still the better part of a year from existing. Industry analysts gave the combination its own name, the Elop effect. The market got the message instantly. Do not buy a Nokia. The current ones are doomed by their own CEO. The new ones don't exist. When Elop announced the strategy, Nokia was still the largest smartphone maker on Earth, selling roughly 3 out of every 10 smartphones, more than Apple and Samsung combined. He even promised Nokia would sell 150 million more Symbian phones during the transition. Within 2 quarters, Nokia's smartphone share had been cut nearly in half. By 2013, it would fall to around 3%. Not declined, not slipped. 3%. The fastest collapse of a market leader in the history of consumer technology. And it began not with a competitor's product, but with a memo from the inside. And then, in the middle of the collapse, came the strangest decision of all, the one that, more than any other, made people stop saying incompetence and start saying sabotage. In June 2011, Nokia unveiled the N9. It ran MeeGo, the in-house system Elop had just sentenced to death. No buttons, an entire interface controlled by swipe gestures, years before the rest of the industry made swiping universal. One-piece body, stunning screen. Reviewers were stunned. After years of disasters, Nokia had finally done it. Press and public alike called it beautiful, fluid, genuinely original. The first Nokia in years that people wanted. The company had one last bullet. And it was a masterpiece. So what did the CEO do with it? Before the N9 had sold a single unit, Stephen Elop told a Finnish newspaper that even if the N9 was a success, Nokia would never make another MeeGo phone, ever. Read that again. Even if it succeeds, we will kill it anyway. Then the company kept the N9 out of most of the world's biggest markets entirely. Nokia's best phone in a decade was quietly strangled in the corner, while every resource flowed to Windows Phone. What kind of company executes its own best product at birth? A company whose CEO needs the other product to win. The Lumia phones arrived in late 2011. They were sleek, the tiles were pretty, reviewers were polite, and almost nobody bought them, because Windows Phone had a hole in the middle of it. No apps. Developers had already chosen iOS and Android. Nokia was reportedly reduced to paying developers to build apps for its platform, begging for what Apple got for free. The share price tells the rest. From the day Elop arrived, Nokia stock fell and fell, at its lowest point losing over 80% of its value. Tens of thousands of employees were laid off. Factories closed across Finland. A national symbol bleeding out in public. And then, September 3rd, 2013, the announcement we opened with. Microsoft buys Nokia's entire devices business, 5.4 billion euros. For scale, Nokia's phone business in its best years earned more than that in profit in a single year. The empire sold for less than 1 year of its old self. And now we can finally talk about the clause. Buried in Stephen Elop's contract, signed back in 2010 when he joined, was a change of control provision. A trigger. If Nokia's business was sold, Elop got paid. Massively. The sale he had just engineered activated his own bonus, 18.8 million euros. And here is the detail that turned Finnish anger into something colder. Under the deal's terms, 70% of that bonus wasn't even paid by Nokia. It was paid by Microsoft. The buyer paid the seller's CEO. Finland erupted. The Prime Minister publicly called the payout outrageous. The press demanded he refuse it. And when Elop was asked to give some of it back, his explanation, as reported, was simple. He couldn't. He was getting divorced. Nokia's chairman went on record claiming Elop's contract was completely standard, the same as the previous CEO's. Days later, he was forced to admit that wasn't true. The contract was different. He called it a mistake in his own communication. Finland called it something else. And then Stephen Elop went home. Back to Microsoft. Senior executive. For a while, he was even discussed as a candidate for the top job, CEO of Microsoft itself. Mission, as half the internet put it, accomplished. Except, here is the fifth thing that doesn't add up. The thing the Trojan horse theory has never fully explained. Microsoft destroyed what it bought. Within about 2 years, Microsoft wrote off roughly the entire value of the Nokia deal. Billions of dollars gone, slashed thousands of the jobs it had acquired, and shut the phone business down. Windows Phone itself was dead soon after. If this was a heist, the thief set fire to the loot. The brand crawled back years later under HMD Global, a Finnish company licensing the Nokia name. The remaining Nokia, the networks business, quietly rebuilt itself into one of the world's largest telecom equipment companies. But the empire, the 40%, the ringtone in every pocket on Earth, that never came back. And it never will. So, the crime scene. Let's close the file, as much as it can be closed. Was Stephen Elop a Trojan horse? The case for a Microsoft veteran who never moved his family from Microsoft's hometown. A memo that publicly torched his own products. A platform choice that just happened to be his former employer's. A masterpiece phone executed at birth. A contract clause that paid him millions on a sale to Microsoft, with Microsoft covering most of the bill. And a first-class ticket straight back to Redmond when it was done. The case against every one of those decisions was approved by Nokia's own board. The sale, by every serious account, was a last resort to stop the bleeding. By 2013, Nokia was months from real trouble. Elop has always denied the theory, and the ending makes no sense as a conspiracy, because the supposed winner, Microsoft, lost billions and killed everything it took. Both cases are real. Neither one closes. But here's the verdict the evidence actually supports, and it's worse than sabotage. Nokia didn't need a Trojan horse. The walls were already down. The touchscreen was built in their own lab, and they buried it. The App Store was proposed in 2004, and they rejected it. The iPhone was studied accurately and then banned from the building. The truth existed at every level of that company every single year. It just wasn't allowed upstairs. Elop didn't kill a healthy empire. He walked into a palace where every messenger had learned to lie, made the worst possible decisions at the worst possible speed, got paid 18.8 million euros for it, and let history blame him for the fire when the building had been soaked in gasoline for a decade. Which brings us back to where we started. That famous final scene, the press conference, the CEO in tears. "We didn't do anything wrong, but somehow we lost." The most quoted moment of Nokia's death. It's in business schools, motivational videos, millions of posts. Now, remember what I told you at the beginning. Try to find the footage. There is none. No video, no audio, no journalist who covered that press conference ever reported those words. Trace the quote back through the internet, and the trail doesn't end in Espoo in 2013. It ends in a viral social media post, written years after the deal was done. The most famous dying words in corporate history were very likely never spoken. And maybe that's the perfect ending. Because think about why the world needed that quote to be real. We didn't do anything wrong is a comforting story. A blameless king murdered by fate. Nothing to learn except be lucky. The real story is unbearable. They did almost everything wrong for 10 straight years while holding the future in their own hands. And every person inside could feel it, and no one could say it out loud. So the internet wrote a better ending, a kinder one. And we believed it, because the truth was worse. The empire was real. The collapse was real. The 18.8 million euros, very real. The only thing in this entire story we can't verify is the apology. So I'll leave the verdict to you. Who really killed Nokia? Type 1, Stephen Elop. The Trojan horse did its job. Type 2, Nokia itself. The fear culture killed it years before Elop landed. Type 3, Microsoft. The buyer, the partner, the bonus payer. Type 4, nobody. No hardware king survives a platform war. It was already over in 2007. The comment section is the jury. And if you want the next investigation, a company that died with a healthier body and a stranger ending, that file is already open on this channel.